I see some new faces, and I see people who are iPhones only. I wish I knew who you were. Welcome to the Malice in Memphis meeting, our January meeting, and this promises to be a really good one, especially since our speaker is a best-selling author and has decided to take some time and talk to us about queries and synopsis. I am going to postpone the business meeting, the business part of our meeting, until after Elaine speaks, because I'm sure she doesn't want to be involved in our business. Although, if you would like to join, we would be very happy to have you. Eileen Dreyer is one of the best authors I've run across in a long time. She's written 28 romance novels, 8 medical forensic suspenses, and 7 short stories, which is more than a person should do in a lifetime, much less continue to do. I went to her bio, and I find this really interesting. She is a forensic nursing and death investigation. She is trained in that, but she's never had to do it and doesn't plan to unless this writing gig doesn't work out.
You never know.
You never know. It's always good to have a side hustle.
It's true. And I mean, I was a trauma nurse for 16 years. So
right.
It kind of fed right into that. I'm trained in that. And also I'm trained to be a medic on a SWAT team.
Oh my goodness.
That was the best.
Well, one of the things that I picked up A Man to Die For on a bargain bin, and I read the whole thing and I went, where has this author been all my life? Why have I not been reading her things before now? So I'm now like in my 3rd or 4th book in the forensic suspense series. I'm not much of a romance reader.
Perfectly all right. I'll forgive you.
I just love those. And it's very, because of your background, it's written, it's very believable. I mean, I don't know anything about it, but I can understand that this is the way it really is. And I think that's very important when you are writing something, to know what you're talking about. She is also an award winner. She has won all sorts of romance writer awards and has extended her reach to suspense and garnered an Anthony Award nomination. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to you. And thank you. Oh, if you don't remember, she sent homework. I tried to send it out. I hope everyone got a copy of it. But thank you very much, Lane.
It's samples. First of all, good morning, everybody. It's really nice to see you up. I want you to know how much I love you all, that I'm actually up. Pat should probably know this about me. I'm an old night nurse, and there are 2 types of night nurses. There are night nurses who do it by necessity and by choice. I'm a by choice. I'm an old night owl. So I'm up like 4 hours ahead of where I usually am. I'm thrilled to talk to you this morning. I really am. I love talking to other authors and book people. I want you to know at the forefront of this, that just because I'm published doesn't mean that outlines and proposals and queries are any easier for me. I really have worked hard over them over the years. Now, the other thing is, when I sent this stuff, I wanted to send you like a proposal that I'd done from both romance and mystery, just because of one of the points I want to make. But understanding that it's been so long since I haven't had a relationship with editors, that I didn't have anything, like from the first times I would query, so that it was like a cold query. So I couldn't even find any of those to pass along to show what I did. A lot of what I've done, and that's one of the wonderful things when we get back to actually being live with other people, that conferences do, is meeting editors at conferences and being able to make that contact. And that's much easier for me. But so what I did, I contacted 2 editors whom I know and said, give me the things that really bother you the most that people do wrong. One of them is Lucia Macro, who's executive editor at HarperCollins. Lucia bought my first book. a few years ago when she was a baby editor. And then I talked to Catherine Levesque, who is the owner and senior editor for Dragon Blade, which does solely historical romance. And I'm working for her right now. So some of this stuff is from them. Some of it is from my own experience, and some is from what I've garnered over the years. One of the things that certainly Pat will know is that if you are a new author to an editor or a new author to a genre, because as you can tell, I've bounced around in genres, and every time I changed a genre, this was true. It's pointless to approach an editor without a full manuscript because they just don't have time. When I was coming up, romance was so hot because I started in romance that they would accept just, a couple of chapters, that you'd only written a couple of chapters and an outline because they needed the material so bad, and they would work with you. Nobody's got the time for that anymore. And for a first author, they've got to know that you can complete the manuscript, because that's the hardest thing you do. The hardest thing to do is complete your manuscript. The second hardest thing is to give it to a stranger to tell you whether it's good or not. And so this is what I heard from both of them. Please remember that. Don't waste your time sending proposals unless, if this is a first for you, you have a full manuscript. One of the things that both of them said, independent of each other, was, and like I said, the only person I've known for a long time, I've known Carolyn, but I really know Pat and I are old buddies, is that do your research on who you're approaching. Make sure that you're approaching the people who are going to publish what you write. Evidently, this is still a big problem if both of them came up with it independently. That, maybe a friend, somebody knew that a friend wrote for this house, and so they're going to approach that house. But, they're approaching a house that does romance and they're doing horror, or they're an editor. You can find out who the editors through organizations like Sisters in Crime, Malice, any of the Malice, or mystery writers of America and stuff. So that's one of the great things about having the writers groups, is that the word goes around. Everybody knows who the editors are, really. And if you can make a personal contact, one of your friends who writes for that editor, and find out, if the editor is looking for something you write. One of the things I did when I started out, because there wasn't RWA or Sisters in Crime or any of the hands-on groups, because mystery writers really wasn't at that time. It was more kind of a let's have drinks and talk about what we do thing, instead of a teaching organization when I got in, and that was in 1986. So I had to do all of this by myself. And I was at the library with the Writer's Guide to Publishing and all of that stuff, and researching what publishers, what editors, what their requirements are. They're all out there. They're all online. They've all got them online to tell you, for instance, Catherine Levesque was telling me she only publishes historical romance. Well, she's getting, horror novels and Star Trek novels and whatever. It's pointless. It's wasting her time. It's wasting your time. And truly, nobody's got the time. If you do the research right away, excuse me, you don't waste anybody's time on this. My own thing that I've seen over the years, and some of this is just my experience of what I've seen people trying. If you're approaching a new editor, somebody you haven't personally met and developed a relationship with, because there are a lot of editors out there who are good buddies of mine who either turned me down or never bought me, or we've never really worked on a business associate because I'm at the cons. Don't be cute. Don't put glitter in their envelopes. Don't threaten. Oh, trust me. The story about the author who went under a bathroom stall and handed her manuscript across, absolutely true. Yeah, they don't have time for that. It just annoys the snot out of them. What you're doing with this proposal and this book is you're proving you're a professional. And the way you do it is to put together a professional package. As far as the query goes, the query letter, the query proposal, and I'm not at outlines or the long proposals yet. Query letters, 1 page. Within that 1 page, and I'm sorry, I could not find one query letter of mine. And I really sat for a long time and looked. I really thought I had more. Because basically what you have to do is, it's the shortest story. It's flash fiction about you and your story. It's that tight. And you have to let them know, first of all, that you know you're in the right place. You know who you're approaching, why your book belongs with them. And I mean, one of the things that I did, I don't know about you guys, I went and looked to see, I read acknowledgement pages. I would walk through the bookstores and read acknowledgement pages in the romance and then the mystery market, because the acknowledgement page always tells you, almost always, who the editor and who the agent are. And this also holds true for agents. Because a lot of the editors, Lucia was telling me that she doesn't accept anything unagented anymore. So agents, same thing. And while my agency is Jane Rotrosen, and Jane Rotrosen as an agency handles all manner of different authors, all manner of different genres and stuff. Within the agency, there are different agents who handle the different genres. So you want to know, again, research your agents, research them through friends, research them online to see who's doing what, who's picking up what, read what they say when they're doing articles and stuff for the the newsletters. But make sure you know that, again, we don't have time to waste. You have to make the strongest case you can right up front, because that may be the only thing. I know somebody who, God bless them, they sent in a whole manuscript and they were furious because they knew that the agent had not read the whole manuscript, because she stapled the last third of the manuscript together just to see if she opened up the pages. And it's like, seriously, you just told them that you're an idiot. You're never going to get through them again. And the other thing about publishing is, and Pat will bear me out on this, it is incestuous as hell. Don't piss anybody off, because I'll guarantee you that if you annoy them at one house, you go to another house like 2 years later, they're going to be there. They move around and they talk to each other. If somebody is outrageous, everybody will find out about it. And nobody wants to deal with somebody who's difficult. It just doesn't, they don't have time. They don't have the personnel, and publishing is stressed enough as it is because of independent publishing and stuff. So the query letter, 1 page, if you can manage it, why you're looking to them, what about them is attracting you, why you want to write for them, why they want you to write for them. Are you published? I don't care what you're published in, you put that you're published. If you have an award of any kind, even if you're not published. If you have background, for instance, when I wrote A Man to Die For, which was my first suspense, they darn well knew that I had a history as a trauma nurse and that I was trained in forensics and death investigation, because that gives you the background that's easier to market. If you've met the editor and were asked, if you're at a conference and an editor says, sure, send me something, by God, send something. I know more people who said, oh, I was too, I was sure she didn't mean it. It doesn't matter if she meant it or not. She said it. You send them something. And even if, even if you don't, like, the manuscript isn't finished when you're talking to them, send them a quick note and say, manuscript's almost finished. I will send you something when the manuscript comes, end of line. Because usually they'll hand out a card or something with an address. Take them up when when they offer something like that, you take them up on it. Do you guys know what I know you know. High concept. The 1 or 2 line description, that's the selling description. We used to say, go to TV Guide and see how they describe movies. Same on IMDb. What is it about that? Why that movie? What is it about your story? Give the story in 1 or 2 lines. And I don't think I sent you my outline on the 3 graces. I think I sent it on the fairy god from Mothers. Did I send the 3 graces? It wasn't 3 graces. Okay. The very top of that is my high concept on the proposal. And it's like 2 lines. These 3 women meet at the medical tents in Brussels during the Battle of Waterloo, and then their adventures begin. Because I was proposing a trilogy. I'm all about series now. It only took me 30 years. So in the context of the query letter, as short and pithy and pointed a description as you can give. Oh, there we go. 3 very dissimilar men. You see the top in the yeah. Like I said, it's before noon. Sometimes my words don't come. The highlight, that's the high concept of the series right there. And then you get into the details of it. I'll get back to this one in a minute. Let me go ahead and go back full screen again. And when I get back to the proposal itself, let's pull that back up again. Thank you. As Catherine says, no more than 200 words on what the manuscript or what the series is. Again, they're not going to be paging through 4 or 5 pages of stuff. And remember, the proposal part of it is a different document. This is your query letter. This is the introducing yourself. Your voice is your biggest asset. I was head of paperback. I was the paperback chair for Edgar's one year. And I was fascinated because I had come into mystery out of romance, and I had 4 mystery writers with me. I got to choose my group, and I chose mystery writers from serial killer to cat mystery people, and then me. And like I said, I came from romance, and there's a whole different focus on romance than mystery. And I thought, how are we going to agree on who the best books were? We ended up reading 175 books. All of us read the same 175 books. We all came up with the same 9 books. We all had one book that everybody else kind of went, huh? Because it spoke directly to, it was something that we particularly enjoyed. Mine was actually a detective who was an alien who looked like a dolphin that nobody else got. But the other 9 books were identical. And I researched them because I wanted to understand this. What set them apart? They weren't necessarily the best mysteries. They didn't necessarily set out the clues best or had the most unique private detective or the person who was going to solve the crimes or anything. It was their voice. It was how they put their words together. Every one of you has a unique voice, every one of us. And one of the problems with publishing, and like I said, I've been doing this for over 30 years, is that it tends to push you to genericize your voice. You don't want to do that. As Jane Krentz said, your voice is your greatest asset and your greatest problem. The problem is people are going to want to take your voice away. But when somebody says, I read Thomas Harris or I read Arthur Conan Doyle, there's no question that those are 2 different voices. And it's the voice, it's the way they tell the story. I could give you a plot concept, and there would be a different story from each one of you because of your background, your loves, your hates, your experiences, your style of reading, your style of talking. My brothers don't read my books, don't read my mysteries. because as they've said, we've heard you talk for 60 years. Why? And I still submit that Dickens was at a cocktail party one day and somebody said, so what do you think about what's going on? And he said, well, it's the best of times. It's the, hold on, I'll be right back. Because that we tend to write the way we talk. Put your voice in the letter. And in the tone of the book, if this is a funny book, let the letter be funny, but run it by somebody else first to make sure it really is funny. Sorry. Because it's, humor is unique. Everybody knows that what one person finds funny. Me, I think Adam Sandler should be put in a box and forgotten, but other people adore Adam Sandler. Humor is very individual, but definitely use the strength of your own voice to make sure that you come across on that query letter, as opposed to it just being a form letter. And every one of us has had form letters. We know exactly what they look like. Certainly recently from certain senators I've been writing to. One of the things that Lucia and Catherine both said is, if they suggest something, because I've gotten a lot of the letters where they're like good rejection letters, where they say, if you change such and such and such and such, or this is really good, but it needs more this, that's a good rejection letter. That means they actually paid attention to what you're doing. But if they don't ask for it back, don't send it. Don't waste your time. Your time is precious. Okay. The Three Graces proposal that was just up a minute ago. This is the style that works best for me. One of the things that I've heard from over the years, and repeated to me by the editors here, is you need to keep it under 10 pages. If you're doing a proposal with a query letter, or you've been asked for a proposal, unless they say, I want a long proposal, kind of like a long birth certificate, send them, try and be as concise as 10 pages, no more. Just because you stand a better chance of them actually paying attention to it. And you'll find that it helps you a whole lot. The style that I use, and Pat may have a completely different style, is that I do the high concept at the top. Again, after it can be the same high concept as in the query letter, but reinforcing that high concept, what it is about that. And one of the things that they do out in Los Angeles, I've proposed some screenplays and stuff too. One of the things they do out in Los Angeles that actually works, it sounds cheesy as hell, but it works, is that whole, what is your book about? My book is about Bridgerton's meet Twilight. Miss Marple meets Silence of the Lambs. Two things that are readily accessible that shortcut everything to, oh, okay, I know, I can tell exactly kind of what this is and why I think this would be interesting before you even get into the construct of the characters and the plot and the whole thing. When you are writing your query letter and your proposal, never forget that you have to address the focus of your piece. Are you writing mainstream? Are you writing genre? If you're writing genre, you have to address different aspects of the genre. For instance, in romance, the conflict in a romance is personal. It's interpersonal conflict. In mystery, it's much more, what is the crumb? Who is the relationship is between the good guy and the bad guy. With romance, it's the hero and the heroine, or the hero and the hero, or the heroine and the heroine. It's the couple, it's the group. And for instance, in women's fiction, it tends to be the group, the family, the sisters, the town, whatever. But you have to focus what you're writing on what the genre is. If you're writing mystery and what you're talking about is the relationship between the hero and the heroine, that's not mystery. That's romance, or that's women's fiction. And I mean, I'm talking in publishing terms, not necessarily in how we really should see things. It's how they see things that's important. What I tend to do is I tend to do the high concept first. And yeah, if it makes it easier, put at the top what the genre, if you're writing specifically to a genre, romantic suspense, mystery, serial killer, police procedural, then go ahead and do it. Anything that will shorten their time being confused about what you're doing. You know, don't give them an excuse to say, well, I didn't understand what was going on. And then what I do, just because for me, it seems like it's just a clearer path, is I will do the characters, the main characters involved in the main conflict. And usually for me, it ends up being about 4 characters. And then the setting, just a quick where it is. For instance, in the Three Graces, it's, Belgium and England and London. And then I get to what the story is. And again, and a lot of the conflict you'll see in the character thumbprints is what their motivation is into this conflict. And then you'll lay out the conflict. In the outline I sent on, I think it was Obituary Cocktail, which ended up being, right now, I just re-released it as City of the Dead. My brain just went south. I hate early mornings. I'm so sorry, you guys.
No. Obituary Cocktail is the one that we had the trouble with, and that one of our members had to decipher before we could get it out.
They did. Okay.
So
I'm
it may
sorry,
not
that
be
was an old Word document.
Yeah, a lot of people may not have that one.
Okay.
Including me. So.
But the characters, in the character study, it's what the crime is going to be, what the conflict as far as what the heroine has to solve. And in the Three Graces, it's much more what conflict is between the characters. In Three Graces, I did each of the 3 books in that one. A quick, because first of all, Eileen is a pantser. Actually, I call myself a crossword, not a jigsaw puzzle. I know what the whole picture of my book is. I know what the beginning, the middle, of the end, but I don't know how you get there. And I'm rather notorious in the world of mystery, because two of the lines that will always show up in my outlines, and everybody knows it, is somehow they find out who the bad guy is, and trust me. And it's worked. I don't know why, but it works. Basically because when I came to mystery, I'd already been in romance for 5 years, 5-6 years. And everybody kind of knew what my outlines were from them. Like I said, this is not my strongest point. And I've had to fight through it like everybody else. Second page of the talk. Remember your audience that you are going to tell the story to. And remember the editor you're talking to on the way, or agent, and the fact that you want to appeal to whatever strikes that agent the clearest. What makes, that's another thing. And this would be in the query. Now you can see why I kind of pants around on books. You want to make sure that as part of your appeal, you want to let them know why their house is perfect for this book, why you want their agency to rep it, which is why you want to do that research on what else they've published or what other authors they've published. One of the things with Rotrosen, when I actually moved over to Rotrosen to do suspense, I had been with an agent named Steve Axelrod for my romances. And Steve is probably one of the finest romance agents on the planet. He reps Susan Elizabeth, anybody who knows the genre, Susan Elizabeth Phillips and Laverne Spencer, Jane Krentz. He was magnificent, but he didn't do suspense. So God bless him, he kicked me out of the nest and said, go find somebody who does romance and suspense. And it was Rotrosen. But I researched who else they represented in mystery to prove my point. And, they do Kristen Hanna, but they also do Tammy Hogue and again, I'm blanking, but so I was able to bring that up, that this is where I belong because I know they represent this type of work or this type of author. And hey, yes, suck up. And you do it so well. You've done such a brilliant job for them that I believe I would fit here, or I believe this story would fit here. When you're writing your proposal, the sell piece about the story, about the characters, when you're doing marketing, it's fine to leave people hanging. It's fine to say, well, how does she get out of this? It is not fine when you're talking to an editor or an agent. You got to give them the whole piece. Don't make them wonder because they're going to toss it. That just annoys them. They want the whole story. Remember to read the guidelines to see if you should send chapters. Usually in this day and age, what I've seen is it's just the query and maybe the outline proposal, and then they'll ask for chapters. Or, like I said, if you get to meet somebody at a conference, they may ask for chapters. Go do it. But you have to respect what they request, because if you send them stuff they don't want, again, it just annoys them. And the last thing you want to do is annoy these people. Questions? I know somebody must.
If you have questions, you can unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, if once you approach someone and you send off it, I really was impressed with the 3 graces.
Well, thank you.
I mean, that seemed like a really, for me, for what I would like to do, that seemed like a really good way to do it. Is that still is that just what you sent, an old time way of doing it, or just a way you do it?
That's the way I do it now. Matter of fact, I just submitted a new proposal to Catherine, and Catherine and I have a relationship, so it was much more informal, and I didn't want to give you the informal one.
Right.
That makes sense. But I still do it the very same way. It's easiest for me to break things down that way. And I think it's most concise, so that it's easiest for them to break it down.
I was looking at that and I thought it just seemed like a really good way to discipline yourself into doing it. It might even straighten out, you might want to write the query letter an outline before you even start your manuscript, and then just.
Well, everybody's different on that.
Yeah.
And I mean, now, of course, because, I have a history and I can submit without finishing a manuscript. I have to,
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons I'd much rather finish the manuscript and then do the outline, but it doesn't work that way.
So would I,
but develop that relationship. And like both Lucia and Catherine said, in this day and age, once you have proven yourself that you're a professional, because that's what part of the thing about that first contract is, that you're proving you're a professional to them and they can trust you to do it again. Once you've done that, most of the work you do is on the phone for the next book or the next series. You talk stuff out on the phone, and then you just send them something perfunctory.
Okay.
Because that's what I did with Catherine. For instance, I've been working on a series of historical romance nicknamed The Drake's Rakes. That's my little marketing thing. It's about nefarious spies in England during the Napoleonic Wars. Okay, I love that stuff. But I realized that in those books, they were darker books. The emotions were darker, the conflicts were darker, the interpersonal conflicts were darker. And it occurred to me, because of the mood of the country right now, and it has more to do with COVID, with dealing with COVID and grieving and trying to, being isolated in our houses. I really believe that I needed to put those books off until we're ready for them, and right now write something lighter. I really believe that's why the Bridgertons took off. First of all, great, beautiful production values, did a good story. you know, great actors, gorgeous actors, you know, it's perfect fluff. And I'm hearing from so many people who've never picked up a romance in their lives that they're addicted to it. And I really think it's because it's perfect fluff. And that's what we need right now. So I called Catherine and I said, I think I need to do something different before I do those books. And she said, you know, I've been thinking about this too. I think you're right. So I just sent her in the new proposal, which, you know, basically is one page, but we'd already talked about it on the phone. So this is, I mean, these are much more important when you're moving to a new house. I always have trouble moving to a new house. I have, like I said, I've been doing this since 1986. And every time I change genres or house, I have to work really hard at what I put together because, first of all, I have a very distinctive voice. And one of the things, and anybody who hasn't had to deal with this yet, one of the little, you know, my experiences that I will share with you that I think is really important is you will get rejections that make no sense to you in the way they're talking about it. What they're trying to tell you is they don't react to your voice. Steve, God bless Steve Axelrod. That was one of the things I loved about him was he was very honest about that. He turned down some of the best people in the business and he said, I don't know why, but it didn't reach me. And if it doesn't reach me, I can't sell it. And if you send to somebody who is telling you they don't get your voice, walk away. Because if they can't get your voice, they can't sell it. They won't give it their whole heart when they're trying to sell that story. But you will find someone. You always, they're out there. And the way I put it together was on A Man to Die For, it went out to 8 houses. And the house that took it, the editor was the one who, she and I knew each other and she bought it before I wrote the book. I wrote the book. She had moved to a different house. And so I had a new editor to sell to. And she calls me up and she said, we don't know what to do with this book. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, we don't know what to call it. What do you call it? I said, I call it a psychological suspense. She said, we don't do that. And I said, okay. And it was probably wrong for me to say this. I said, well, you didn't do techno thrillers till Tom Clancy now, did you? Yeah, okay. But she said, it's confusing because we can't call it a mystery because you know who the bad guy is right away. It's not giving anything away. You do know who the bad guy is right away. It's not a suspense because you know who the bad guy is right away. I wanted to introduce her to Hitchcock, but I figured it would be pointless at that point. She said, my favorite, it's not a women in jeopardy book because she solves her own problem. And she said, and there's humor in this book and there's a serial killer. If you take out all the humor and take out these other things, then maybe we could publish it. And I said, no, give me my ball and bat. I'm going home. And they were wonderful about it. They really were. They said, if you want to try and sell it someplace else, go right ahead. But we don't know what to do with it. You'd have to take out all the humor. Now, this is a book set in an emergency room about emergency room people dealing with terrible situations. We laugh. We make terrible jokes. That's how we deal with stress. I'm not taking that out of the book. That was core to the book. And I bought 2 books back in my career when I realized that they didn't get it enough that they couldn't sell the book. And what they wanted me to change was so important to the core of the book that I just couldn't do it. That's why you need to make sure that they get your voice. And what I finally told my agent was, if I can get somebody to say to me, I love what you do and I think I can make you do it better, they've got it. He said, of course, my lovely Steve, he said, what about money? I said, that's your problem. You worry about that because I can't talk to people about that. All I want is the best book I can write and somebody to understand what it is I write. And that was one of the wonderful things about Lucia. She really got my voice. She got what I did. And she truly did help me do it better. And that's why, I will never be without an editor, ever. There's a situation in publishing that I call too rich to edit. And you know it the minute it happens to an author, when they're too afraid to edit them. Everybody needs an editor. Anything else? This is what I have on my speech. Anything else? I know there are questions.
I just want to go on record as saying that whoever didn't get A Man to Die For probably does not need to be in the business. I mean, truly, I could not find, I still use it and refer back to it. I have parts of it highlighted in my Kindle, and I go back and say, now, how did you do this scene? Oh, I see how she did it. I mean, well, thank you. I'm now going through the whole set. I hope someday somebody says that about one of my books.
Thank you so much. You have no idea what that means to me.
Well, I am enjoying all because your heroines are strong and they do solve their own problems. And
I mean, I do like having the heroes for the balance.
Yes.
You know, there's always a guy in the book for the balance because we think differently.
Right. And I've forgotten the name of it now, about the nurse who was in the community hospital and her father always quoted Irish.
Brain dead.
Was that Brain Dead? Okay.
Brain dead, yeah. Yeah.
I just felt so bad for her because no one would believe her except the drunk reporter. Anyway, that cost me a couple of nights sleep trying to figure out how to help her. There was no way to help that poor woman. Anyway, that's I told Lynn, I think, that I hope I didn't fawn all over you because I'm such a groupie.
Oh, thank you. Trust me, it never
Eileen,
bothers an author to be fawned over.
So Eileen, I have your documents that you sent to us pulled up. Do I need to share those and you go over them, or do you think they're
they should be self-explanatory. I mean, it's basically the structure that I was more interested in showing. And like with the Three Graces, the fact that, and you know, my stuff morphed, you know, like morphed and grew over the years and changed as I knew it worked. And getting in that top, I really think that the high concept is one of the most important things you can figure out for your book. The sell piece, the couple of lines that says everything and why somebody wants to read it.
Eileen, I downloaded A Man to Die For, by the way, while this was going on.
Sorry?
I downloaded A Man to Die For while this was going on, by the way. What are a couple of names of those 9 books that y'all agreed on?
The 9 books.
Y'all got together and you read 135 or 165 books, and 9 of them that y'all.
Lisa Scottolini's first book. She's the one who won the Edgar that year for the paperback. And it's been a while. But Lisa won. Harlan Coben, his first book. Harlan has a great voice.
Oh,
Has a great voice. And I don't even have those on my laptop, so I couldn't tell you which other ones.
No, I appreciate it.
Be 2 of my favorites.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who all won that year.
Ryan, Philippi. Yeah, Philippi.
Yeah. She's wonderful.
Comes from a journalism background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does. Jan Burke has a great voice. Tammy Hogue has a great voice.
Oh.
Carl Hyacin. Dear God, Carl Hyacin. When I went I started in romance and I knew I was always going to write suspense. And I got to the point where I was going to make the jump, and I was trying to decide how to do it, in what way I wanted to do it. Did I just want to do romantic suspense, which is kind of the route that Nora Roberts took for a long time? Or did I want to do something really different? And I read 2 books that really changed everything in how I approached suspense and wrote it, as opposed to romance, because my suspenses are different. There's a whole different focus, a whole different language. And the first one was Elizabeth George's A Great Deliverance, which is one of the best books I've ever read, because she has the most disagreeable character. And by the end of the book, you're just praying that she's okay. That still just amazes me. And Carl Hyacint's Tourist Season. Carl has one of the best voices in the world, and you want funny. Oh my God, is he funny. And again, he had these two characters who were rank idiots. And at the end of the book, you can't breathe. You want to make sure they're okay at the end of the book. That's damn good writing. And he'll tell you anything you want to know about Florida. Each one of his books, if you haven't read him, oh, do you have something in store for you? Because each book takes apart some Florida mythology or identity. There's one on Disneyland. There's one on plastic surgery called Skin Tight, which I adored. Like there's one on lotteries, and I mean everything has kind of a focus that he kind of takes apart, because Carl has done writing for this. It seems to me it's the same paper that Dave Barry wrote for or writes for down in Florida, Miami Herald, maybe.
The Miami Herald.
Yeah, definitely.
My husband just finished one of his books and laughed the whole way. When my husband finds a nice book, he reads it to me. So I feel like I've read that book already.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Okay.
he's the best.
Anyone else have any questions? We need to let her go so she can go back to bed.
You caught me.
I bet you have your pajama pants on under that.
I put my jeans on like a good girl. I even have shoes on. I dress up for you people.
Oh, I thank you. I'm impressed. But we'll let you go unless you want to hear about our self-publishing efforts. We've decided to self-publish our anthology.
Wonderful.
So
I don't suppose you'd like to publish an anthology of romance. I've got an idea, and I'm the last person who can organize. I can't organize cupcakes.
Well, this is going to be an experience.
Who's editing?
Carolyn, who is, Carolyn McSparian. She's one of them. Jim Pavla's there. He's going to editors. And Angelin, where is Angelin?
She didn't join us today.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm very envious of you guys. That's great.
We have it ready to go. We're trying to get our ducks in a row before we start.
Yeah, yeah.
Angela and Sharon. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. You were so nice to jump in. And I appreciate your getting up early and sharing all this information with us and all the.
I hope it helped. I hope it made sense.
It did. And actually, it's a good challenge for everyone to, whether you intend to actually send it off like this or not, to write your queries, your information down.
I think it helps just focus.
Exactly.
It for me anyway. Yeah. And remember, I should have done this at the beginning. I would have if it hadn't been 10 o'clock. One of the things I do whenever I teach is there's a quote I always use. It's by Somerset Maugham, which is, there are 3 hard and fast rules to writing a novel. Unfortunately, nobody can agree on what they are. Everything I say works for me. These are suggestions. There are no rules. You have to filter it through what works best for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, you guys. Have a good one. Best of luck with the anthology. And I may get in touch with you about joining.
Great. We'd love to have you. One of the things I'd like to ponder is, even when we are able to get back together as a group, is to have Facebook Live or to Zoom the meeting so that we can have people from far away.
I think it's a brilliant idea. Yeah.
To come. I long for the day that we can actually shake hands and hug and.
Yeah.
But Dutch down there, our president of Vice, has had COVID, so it's okay to hug him. And my kids have
not necessarily. You know that you get your vaccine, young man, because you're right now. Again, the trauma nurse is talking. By the way, if you need any information on that stuff, I have a page on Facebook called Nurse Eileen, and I've just been focusing on COVID. 'Cause there's so much confusion about it. And I just posted a big thing on vaccines and the COVID vaccines, the various ones that are coming out. But right now they're thinking that immunity from having it only lasts months.
Uh.
So be careful. Eileen the nurse says so.
All right, thank you very much.
Alrighty, kids. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so Jackie, do you want to continue this live stream on Facebook?
I do
with your
not.
business? Okay, well, I will end it. Sorry, folks on Facebook, but I'm going to stop the live stream. And do you want me to end the recording for our archiving online?
Yes, we'll keep on for that.
Okay.
I wanted to hear the treasurer's report, and because we're going to need to know that. Okay.
Yes. I have been working with PayPal for over a week and still have not got the issue straightened out, but they keep messaging me and I keep sending what they want, but we'll get it there eventually. We changed accounts, you know, and that kind of messed them up. Beginning in January 1st, we had $1,270.61. Deposits pending on PayPal are $171.14. The ISBN and barcodes was $320. The Christmas Jeopardy prizes were $20, and for Zoom, paying Lynn back for getting us on Zoom was $98.28. So we have $1,003.47. Right now, showing in the account is $852.33. The $20 debit has not come out yet for the Jeopardy.
Okay.
Yeah. So showing in the account is $852.33. And I sent you a copy of that, I believe, this morning,
Okay.
right at 10.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll probably.
And then I haven't, let me see if I can find my annual, I did an annual report, which, let me see if that's down here. Now that one's the end of October, so that, but I also did an annual report, which I will also send to you, showing, and I thought I had it pulled up so I could pull it up and read it, but showing what we did for the whole year.
All right. If you, we can send that out to the members. The purpose of this is to let you know how much money we have in the account and to tell you what we're doing with it. I want to welcome Dutch back after such a long time being sick, and I'm glad to see you sitting upright. And I want to, let's see, congratulate Larry and Carolyn on their Daryl. What happened to Carolyn? She must have left. And to Lynn on making the the finalist for one of the best anthologies I know, edited by
Michael Bracken.
Thank you. I'm like, I didn't write that down. Okay, Russ has been sending, as our secretary, God bless him, sent around a roster with your phone number and how to reach you. If you did not receive a roster of Malice members, get in touch with Russ. Raise your hand, get in touch with Russ right away. We want to make sure that everybody has a complete list of members and how to get hold of them, mostly because you're going to need to get in touch with people to say, would you read my story? I need somebody to tell me what I've done wrong here. Also, I needed to put you on committees. All right, I'm going to turn this over now because one of the things we want to do is talk about the anthology. I'm going to turn this over to Jim.
Got it. And I gotta say, hey, Dutch, miss you, man. I'm glad you're back. I hope you're on the mend, well on the mend. You look good. When I decided or agreed to join Carolyn and Angelin doing the anthology, I had no idea what I was getting into. So there are parts of me that are still on the floor. I'm trying to pull them back together. We went through all the stories, and I thought folks were basically wonderful. I thought the discussions were good, and I thought the rewrites were up to speed and doing really well. I think it's compiled a really good group of stories, and certainly measures up to, or maybe what we hope is even a little beyond what we've done in the past. It looks really good. And then we got into the business of publishing and who's going to publish it. And our publisher from Mayhem in Memphis, Dingbat, publishing out of Texas, has made a decision that they don't want to mess with us anymore, that we weren't making any money for them. And so they've terminated the contract as of last week, January 1 or January 2. And so then the discussion among Jackie and the anthology group was, should we self-publish or should we find another publisher? And we went round and round about the pros and cons of that. We just went through a great presentation about how getting your book published can be done. But if any of you have been through the business before, it's really hard and it takes a long time. And sometimes you don't even hear back from your query for 6 months to a year. And then you might get accepted, and then it goes on further. So part of the response or the discussion we had was timing. First of all, is it possible to get another publisher? We've been really lucky with Dark Oak and with Dingbat. No one seemed to have we all had contacts. There were personal contacts within Malice with those particular publishers that got us a leg up. We weren't aware of any others like that. And so after quite a bit of discussion, we decided to try self-publishing. And if you're going to self-publish, then basically what you have to do is everything that a publisher would do. So that means you've got to do the editing, you've got to do the book cover, you've got to do on and on and on and on and on. So to do that, we laid out the possibility, what it would take. We put together a budget, a general budget to see what it might cost, some time frames, and we also needed to have a publisher's name. And we sent out an email asking for people to provide possible names, and we got an overwhelming response of none. So we made up our own, and we came up with the Malice Publishing. That's just thanks, Lynn. So that's the name we came up with, and we can now go ahead. We put together a budget based upon what we're thinking of, a tentative budget, and a tentative budget looks like it's about 500, maybe 550 bucks to handle Lies Along the Mississippi, which is the anthology we're doing right now. I think everyone on the screen, almost everyone, well, I guess Pat and Russ don't, but almost everyone has a story in that anthology. And so that's what we're looking at. We don't know for sure. Some of these costs are kind of fluid.
Can we wait and let Lynn put the proposed cover for Lies Along the Mississippi up? Okay.
Okay.
It's great.
Yeah.
Russ, did you have a question?
No, I just thumbs up the cover. It looks great.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Lynn did a great job.
So part of the self-publishing piece was, given the cost of doing a self-publishing book, sometimes can get really heavy, but we looked at it and we could absorb a lot of the costs by the editing costs, which we've already gone through, and Lynn's work on the cover that he's already just seen, and we can get the discount on the text layout and design, which was the next step for us to go ahead with. So we were able to trim out, I don't know, maybe $3,000.
Yeah, I was going to say, I estimated whenever I went in and looked at the cost of all the images and the fonts and everything, that cover would have cost you close to $800 to $1,200 itself. That's not even including the time that it took for me to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're trimming back lots of money, but then if we had a publisher, we wouldn't have that cost. But as self-publishing, we were, and so we're getting the benefits of the members of the Malice group and the contacts that we still have. So if we go through that, we're now shuffling. I call it shuffling because I'm, for want of a better term, I can't figure out what I'm doing, but I'm putting the preliminary pages of a book together with the stories that we have, with the bios that we have, with the introduction that Carolyn has written, and we've got a document. We're still waiting on one story we're still working on, but once we get that one story, we have an ISBN number, by the way, that you have to have. We're set with that. Once we get the last story locked in place, then the next phase is to get copyright for it. And Jackie has volunteered to do that piece. And once the copyright's done, then we get the copyright numbers. We can put it back in the preliminary pages and then have a full document to then send to the layout and text design person. So it's coming. We're also, I say we, but so far it's still on my desk, is to pull together a contract that the Malice Publishing Group would have with each author. And the idea, our focus on that contract at this point is that we want it to be an author's contract. We don't want it to be a publisher's contract. In other words, we want to make sure that the authors are benefiting. Now, any monies that would come through would come to Malice organization for the continuation of education and coaching and prospering of authors. But each author would be able to clearly have their rights back after a year, and they can go and publish it in any other place they want to, as long as Malice continues to be able to publish the anthology the way the publishing group wants to. And so that's the essence of this contract, which I don't think is going to be real long, and I hope it turns out to be legal enough. We'll get someone to sign off on it, and we'll have that going, and so everyone can sign the contract. Let's see. I think that's where we are. What did I leave out? Jackie, Lynn, Carolyn?
I wanted to bring everybody up to speed on what's going on with Malice in Memphis. As Jim said, our publisher has given us our rights back. Unfortunately, our publisher sent me a note and said, I've had a terrible computer disaster. I won't be back online until Thursday. And at that time, I'll walk you through the process of taking back Mayhem and getting it in your name. So that's on Thursday, I'll do that. And I'm going to ask the members of the anthology committee to join me if it's a conference call so that I don't mess up. We will have our rights to Mayhem back. We can put it back on, once we get it all straightened out, we then can put it up on Amazon. We can sell it we can ask Barnes and Noble to distribute it, which I think Annette Miller has already asked them about that, Barnes and Noble, that is. So once we do that, we'll have two books. The thing is going to be up to every one of us to sell those books.
Yeah. That's the part of the budget I just left out was the marketing. We're going to have, in order to sell the books, we're going to have to buy printed copies to be able to sell at book signings and whatnot. And you don't want to be stuck with 100 copies of the book that we only sold 2 on. That's not going to work. So there's going to be a lot of nail biting, and what we look for is energy. See, if, trying to get a book signing in this age of COVID will be really difficult. We'll just have to string it out and see how the timing goes, that we can put stuff together. There might be some things we can do on Zoom, like they do at Novel. They have authors on Zoom, and people buy books from there, or for there's Barnes and Noble probably has a similar program for Zooming authors. And so there may be ways to do all that, and we'll have to look into it. That's where the marketing piece would come.
And when we have the marketing piece, that's when we will need all of our marketing people. But every one of you, whether you have a story or not, we really need to sell this book. It's our sole source of income. And
No, it's not. We have.
oh, I beg your pardon. We do have dues, and we need to get those in.
Yeah. Now, what are we supposed to do with the dues? Who do we send them to physically?
Okay, you can, Barbara, would you use the chat function there and put your address, your physical address in there? That it's down along the bottom of your, see down along the bottom, it says chat. There's a little cartoon.
I don't see that.
Oh no, I'm talking to Barbara. But you can pull up your membership list, which.
Oh, yellow, verily.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons Russ sent it to you. If you just pull up your membership list, you will see Barbara Christopher's address. Everybody
What
sees
are the dues, please, this year?
$24.
What are the dues this year?
$24.
Well,
I thought they raised it to 25.
At one point, we talked about doing that on Facebook so that we, because of the cost of using PayPal, but I don't know that was ever done.
Well, it says in our bylaws that the dues are $24. So if we're going to amend the bylaws to say 25, then we can do that. We can amend we actually can amend the bylaws to say that the dues are $30. But I think for this year, we're going to have to, what we may do later is have a membership assessment of $10, something like that, to promote, to use for marketing and other promotions or other costs associated with publishing the book. But that's something, but right now the dues are $24. I wish they were, Oh, and Barbara has put up in the chat her address for those of you who would rather do that than read the membership list that Russ sent out. And Barbara says she has received several on PayPal, which we'll have as soon as PayPal and Barbara agree. And so far, and I would not bet on PayPal in this dispute. I would bet on Barbara. So right now the dues are 24. If we might need to come for a membership assessment later, but that's down the road. Let's just do what we have to do now. Please get your membership dues in. Okay.
Is there anything else on that aspect of the anthology? Any questions that I can avoid answering?
Well, that means we have one anthology that's currently published that we're getting our rights back to and going to have to self-publish, which is Mayhem. We have Lies Along the Mississippi River, which we're wrapping up. And then we have Blue City Clues, which you'll be doing a meeting for here in the next couple of weeks to outline those guidance and plans for it, correct?
Right, we want to put together a Zoom, and I think the tentative date was next Saturday, isn't it?
Mm.
I'd have to check with Angeline, but it would be a Zoom for authors who are interested in submitting their stories on Blue City Clues. And we want to walk through all the kind of the guidelines, the expectations that we need to have as you put together your document, so that, you know, it's in Word, it has this level of indentation, yada yada, that doesn't talk about really bad things, you know. So we'll we'll put that together for all the folks who are thinking about or have already decided that they're going to submit. And then once that happens, then the submission will be open for a couple months of people to submit their short stories, and the anthology group will get back together, going through each of the stories and working with each author over the story.
Okay.
So,
I have to say again that the work that the anthology committee has done has been amazing. It's been extremely professional, and they've been dependable. I'm really owe a debt of gratitude to the anthology committee. And
Will
anyone
we be getting our rights from Dark Oak for the one?
we have our, well, according to what Christy sent out, what our former president sent out a long time ago, we already have our rights to Elmwood.
Okay.
Individual authors have it.
well, Elmwood, Ghost, and Bluff City Mysteries, all three.
Right. What I'm hoping to do, Barbara, or what the anthology committee has talked about is, yes, we want to get the rights back from Dark Oak. But right now we want to just do what we have, because we don't know what we're doing. And to take on all that many more books, I just don't know. Once I talked to Dingbat on Thursday about the process of getting back our rights and getting back, you know, our copyright, all this stuff, how that process works, then we can approach Dark Oak with a step 1, step 2, step 3. We want all of our rights back. But right now and the other thing is, how are we going to market all those books? I'm just overwhelmed. So what we want to do is eat this elephant one bite at a time.
Right, because you also got to remember that those 3 books by Dark Oak, they have to be distributed. And if we get our rights back to them and we're not set up in any mode to print and distribute, we're kind of screwing ourselves of not being able to have a product available. So we'd have to pull it off of Amazon and go from there, which is not a bad idea if we were to pull them from Amazon and then redo the covers and update and make everything streamlined. But that's one of the things that we have to take things, like they say, in bite-sized chunks. We're getting in over our head if we go at 6 at one time.
Right. So yes, all these things, you know, because we are, what I'm asking for you is to be patient as we proceed, because we're learning as we go. I think in the end, it's going to be a wonderful education process. And for anyone who is thinking about self-publishing, it would serve you well to become part of this process now, to be part of a, what do we call it, Jim? Malice Publishing is a subcommittee of the anthology.
Something like that. I don't
Yeah.
remember what the words were. But.
Right, but it's a subcommittee of the anthology committee. But it's yes, it's a but it would serve, if you are thinking about self-publishing, it would serve you well to get involved in Malice Publishing now, especially while we're feeling our way and learning about how to do it. As I've learned, there's more to it than just throwing it up on Amazon and saying all come. So anything else? Anything else? Thank you very much. I will see you next.
Oh, wait a minute. I think Pat had a question.
Oh, Pat.
You're on mute, Pat. Pat, you're on mute.
All right, folks, Pat, unmute yourself. Where'd you go?
Oh.
Oh, she's still up.
No, you're still on mute.
It's the little microphone down at the bottom. See? No.
Let me ask something real quick while Pat's doing hers.
Yes.
I'm not in a critique group.
Okay.
How'd I go about getting in a critique group?
Okay.
I was actually gonna send you an email today, Russ.
Okay.
Okay,
And
am I,
and on the Excel spreadsheet on the membership thing, do you think it would be good to have, I can put in several columns. People can check what genre they are interested in. Like, I don't care anything about romance really, so I wouldn't want to reach out for somebody that does romance, but mystery or sci-fi or
I think that would.
paranormal.
I
And
think
then
that would be perfect. But I will, I'm gonna get in touch with you today about your need for a,
Critique group,
Right.
okay. Thanks.
you actually took the words out of my mouth. Pat, are you unmuted?
can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can? Okay. Just listening to all this, of course, I've known it's all gone on, but this would just make such a good feature for a local newspaper. Now we have some competition in the city. I think this would just make a really good feature about
Funny-
this
yeah.
group publishing.
Funny you should mention that, Pat. I've been in touch with John Bifus. And he said, I've had Malice on my list for a while. And I said, well, time to move it up. He's on vacation, but when he comes back, he's going to do I think he will do a story on us. So,
Yeah, good. Because this is an amazing project that's been going on and people need to know about it. And that's the way to sell these books.
right.
And we also have the ear of Mary Beth Conley. So
Right.
she's,
Yeah.
I've spoken to her and she's willing to, as long as it is relatable to something that's going on in the news, she'll promote, an individual book. But as far as Malice, she's interested in promoting goodwill and Malice as well, whenever we have something. And I know Jackie's done things with her too. So
It has to be focused on it, mostly on an event. The reason they interviewed me about the yellow fever revenge is because we were just at the beginning of the pandemic. So writing about an epidemic was very newsy.
Yeah.
So, but we're working on it, Pat. You're exactly right. I mean, old newspaper people think alike. So.
Yeah. I mean, it'd make a great feature. I would love to have, found out about it when I was a reporter, and particularly with the subjects all being Memphis and the 4 books and the different names. I just think a lot could be made out of that. So
I think so too. I've always thought that the visitors and convention bureaus should hand out copyology.
Yeah.
I mean, put them in their book bag. We could sell it to them for $1 over publisher cost, and it would be
Mhm.
relatively cheap for them. What probably would be like $3 a book. And right,
Maybe more than that.
you think so?
Yeah.
I just couldn't, I was trying to think, what is the price of my book when I buy it? And I couldn't remember. So, but anyway, these are all things that we can talk to that we will have a marketing committee, and every single person in Malice
Okay.
will have to help. I mean, there just can't be on Jim's shoulders or Lynn's shoulders. So gird your loins. If you do not have a job, you will. All right. Anything else? All right. Adjourned. Thank you very much. We'll see you later.